This is how I write, okay? So I say that y'all need to turn pro. Y'all need to think in terms of turning into a professional. And the contrast I'm making between a pro is what? What's the opposite of a professional?
Con.
Was that no. not pro and con as in I like or dislike. As in professional versus a beginner or an amateur. An amateur, it would be the opposite spectrum of a professional. Amateur is somebody who's new at this, who doesn't really know, just having fun, personal hobby. Professional is doing it for just by themselves, or for whom? For whom are they doing this their craft?
For themselves.
Only themselves, or only themselves? I mean, only the professionals are only doing it for their own pleasure, do you think? Or is there other people enjoying that too?
Other people.
And it's really, maybe the professional just did it because they felt like doing it, but they are recognized as becoming a professional. Why? It's because other people like it. Other people dig it. So it may be so that this writer or this artist or whatever is just doing what he or she does best. And it just so happens that people really, really like it. It just so happens. Then that person's a professional. Now, when you're turning pro, you force yourself to become more disciplined in your decision making, more detailed in your analysis, and much more deliberate in your speech. So because you're talking to an audience, because you have an audience, you're not messing around. You're taking it seriously and you're choosing your words very, very carefully, right? Whatever a professional decides to put out onto the world, he or she expects criticisms and rough play. Meaning that, oh, wow, they're just messing with me, or they're just poking holes just for the sake of it. Why? Because whatever you did, if it's good, if it's of great value and commotion, more people, more haters are gonna mess with you. The people who are envious, the people who are jealous, they're gonna mess with you more. Why? Because whatever you're doing is good. And they see that and they recognize that. So the haters, they're gonna mess with you. So expect rough play to happen, especially if you're good. Especially if you're good, expect that jealous haters is gonna mess with you. But you're not gonna let that bring you down or let that stop you. You're just gonna do your thing, but just know that's gonna happen. Just accept it, understand, assume that it will happen to you. Just assume it, right? A professional welcomes competition because he or she understands that a diverse ecosystem promotes growth, where monopolies breed degeneration. If you only have one or two people just basically dominating the entire market, you will get corruption, you will get bad players, you will get foul play. That's just how it is. So I want more people, I want more diversity. Whatever I'm doing right now with this debate stuff, I'm expecting that other people are going to come up with a better solution, a better way of doing it. And I hope that, I sincerely do. When an amateur decides to become a professional, the focus shifts from the creator to the receiver, or the consumer, or the person who's reading it, listening to it, or taking it in. So when it was a hobby, a personal amateur thing, you're the only audience. You're the only person looking at it. When it's presentable now to an audience, you have to think about them. You absolutely have to. So you're not focusing about what you like, although it is there, but you're also focusing about, hey, what are they gonna like? Are they gonna dig this, yes or no? The receiving end, are they gonna enjoy this, yes or no? This is completely different from someone creating just for personal use. Your craft now has an audience. You may know, you may not know them. They may be hidden behind the screen. It may be millions and millions of viewers watching this video. I don't know. But that craft must bring value and joy to the listener, to the reader, to the receiver, to the person at the end of the poll. Does that make sense? Whatever you're doing has to bring joy and value to them, not to you. Obviously, it's doing that for yourself, but it's also helping them as well. Your value and reputation is determined by how well you serve and wow your audience. Understand there's a difference between serving your audience and wowing your audience. Who wants to tell me what you think it means? What do you think the difference is? Serving your audience and wowing your audience.
Maybe wowing your audience could be like impressing your audience and like showing them how good you are and making them say wow in a good way.
Good. I think that's a pretty good description, I think. But the point that I wanted to make here was definitely related to that is When you're serving somebody, when you're serving your audience, it's just like serving as a waiter in a restaurant. The customer that you're serving asked for this particular item on the menu. They said, I want the cheeseburger with bacon on the fries. They asked for that specifically, explicitly. They said they want this. So it's an existing demand that you're just feeding. It's like, oh, I know you want this, so I'm giving it to you. So you're serving them in that regard. Wowing them is slightly different. Wowing them is giving them what they want, but they didn't know that they wanted it when they first got it. Does that make sense? You give something to them, they get it, and it's like, wow, I never knew that I wanted this so much. I just realized that I really, really wanted this, but you gave it to me. I was like, wow, thank you. Thank you for just going ahead of that and just giving me what I wanted all along. That's wowing somebody. So the need is there implicitly. You know it's in there. They haven't said it out loud, but you do it anyways, and then they're wowed by it. Does that make sense? The latter is much more difficult. You finding out what people want is easy. Just do some Google search. You just ask around. That's pretty straightforward. But what they secretly deep down want, that's difficult to understand. And to get it right so that they like it and they're wowed by it, that's another level. But I want you to be in that level. I want you to wow people. I really do. And you think it's hard, but once you get in the habit of wowing people, then it becomes second nature. And you can definitely do it. Let's see. So I make the distinction between fulfilling an existing need and presenting something new that they've always wanted, that they've needed all along. There's a clear distinction. The latter acts as a demarcation line between amateurs and professionals. So in my opinion, my contention is that if you're an amateur, you're just serving. You're just giving what they want or what they ask for. But anybody can do that. Really, it's because it's easy to find out what they want. Maybe somebody has a better way of doing it than the other, but ultimately it's serving an existing purpose, it's the existing expressed need. But if you tap on something that they've secretly wanted but never said so, then you're playing a different level. Then they're gonna be like, whatever this person does, I want now. I'm waiting for the next season. I'm waiting for the next content. I'm waiting for the next book. I'm waiting for the next talk. I'm waiting for the next lecture. Whatever it is, you've already wowed them, and now they're anticipating for your next project. They want to see what you're up to. Then you're a professional. If you're an artist and you're a rapper or whatever, then your fans want to listen to your next album. It's like they can't wait for your next album. Then you're a professional. Does that make sense? So make sure that you understand that. EMD mission. Why do I exist, or why does this company exist? It's because it comes into three parts. Ultimately, I want to get to number 3, but it's assuming that number 1 and 2 is true. So if number 1 and 2 is true, then number 3 has to be true. That's how I see it. And number 1 is if we create the necessary conditions in which speakers can engage in respectful, truthful, and meaningful discourse, which means conversations. So if I can come up with a platform, if I can come up with an environment where y'all can speak in a respectful manner, talk the truth, right? And have meaningful discussions in the process. You get something out of it. That's number 1. If we can do that, then we become more aware about the wide spectrum of opinions on important critical issues pertaining to the future of mankind on Earth. So whatever's happening to mankind right now on Earth, there's certain issues that we need to talk about. And these issues, if we don't talk about, it's devastating to us all. That's how I see it. 5G technology is definitely one of them. I think that 5G technology is something that we should take very, very seriously. We need to understand what's at stake here and what possible repercussions and consequences and implications we can have if we all just jump on the bandwagon and say, let's just all jump to 5G. I think it's a dangerous move. I don't think we should be doing that. And the reason why I'm bringing it up as a topic is because I want us to talk about it. So it is a critical issue. It is a serious issue pertaining to the future of mankind on Earth. And I want us to be more aware about them. I want us to be more versed than the normal people, than the average regular Joe about this topic, so that when the thing comes at you, an article comes at you, a documentary comes at you, or somebody's interview comes at you, you have a broader understanding. You have a deeper context to understand what's going on, and you can make your own decisions. You can have more opinions more informed opinions about the matter because you learned about it. That's why I'm doing it. If we get both 1 and 2 done, thus enabling us to visualize a world for the better, one that treats competence and compassion of equal status. This is really what I ultimately want. I want everybody in the league, everybody joining us here in this class, I want them to understand the reason why EMD is here is because I want everybody here to treat competence and compassion of equal status. Does that mean that I think it's currently at the same status? Does that mean that compassion and competence is currently of equal status? Do you think yes or no? What do you guys think? Purim, do you think it's equal status right now? Competence and compassion. What is competence? It means how well are you? Like how good are you? Your ability, your competency level is how well you can execute a problem, how well you can execute a task. What's your performance level? How good are you? That's your competence. So you have good 능력. 능력이 좋은 거 competent. You're a competent person. You're a problem solver. You know how to get things done. You're competent. So it's very important to have that. But also, I want to see compassion. What is compassion?
Kind of like, not empathy, but similar. It's like a similar thing.
Similar.
Like, you show your emotions and feelings that are good to the other person, and yeah.
Okay. So calm means together. Means together. Calm. Like company. Calm. What's that? Passion. Having passion. So we all have passion together for each other. We consider each other as one. We consider each other as brothers and sisters. We're an extension to the same family group of humans. If we do that, then we are showing compassion. We don't want to hurt their feelings. We don't want to harm them. We don't want to take anything away from them. We treat them just as we want to be treated. We don't do anything to them that we wouldn't want on the receiving end. And that's the golden rule. The golden rule is you don't do anything to anybody else that you wouldn't want to be on the receiving end. If you don't want that happening to you, you don't do it to anybody else. That's the golden rule. And you can only keep that by having compassion. If you don't care about the other person, if you don't respect the other person, and you're competent, you're super smart, then what happens? You take control over them. If anything, you can enslave them because you're so much more superior, because you're so much more smarter and so much more competent that you can just claim their lives. And that has been history. That has been our human condition. And we know that that's very, very, like, it's something that we are very, very capable of doing. So again, it goes back to what's EMD doing? What's the mission? I want everybody in the league, anybody being exposed to this material, to consider competence and compassion of equal status. So you being super smart and well versed in these critical issues is just as important as you showing respect. If anything, it's more important. Because that comes first, at least from my standpoint. You showing respect comes first, and then you show your skills. And then you prove how smart you are. And then you prove how competent you are. You don't say, this is how smart I am, this is how much well-versed I am, this is my authority, this is my expertise, and then later you feel like doing respect, yes or no. No, respects come first, you show compassion first, and then you explain to everybody else why people should care about you. It's because you've done the research, it's because you thought it through. So it's hard, but I want that. And only if we have that, we can have meaningful discussion. I don't want people just fighting and bickering and pointing fingers throughout the entire round and getting nowhere. And the recording, if you see that, it's ugly. It's no fun. It's not pleasant to watch. It's not presentable to your parents either. It really isn't. I want y'all to think about respect from start to finish and really see it through. The definition. How do I define the ideal speaker, the best speaker ever? How is that possible? How is that attainable? Purim, I want you to read the 3 lines for us, please. The ideal speaker will display ability to
resolve conflict and disengagement through mutual respect.
Mutual respect.
While presenting through thought-provoking logic and
Analysis.
With overwhelming evidence in a unique style that commands the attention from the floor.
Okay, so it's divided into 3 parts. Mutual respect would go with ethos. ethos or 덕, 도덕의 덕. And analysis is right here while presenting thought-provoking logic and analysis with overwhelming evidence. And the last one is pathos in style, and a style that commands the attention of the floor. So the first part is whatever happens to you in the chamber, in the round, even if the other team is showing disrespect, even if the other team is being super rude to you, you are deliberately turning that around on purpose. Why? You want to take the high road. The idea behind this is that if they do something bad to you, disrespectful to you, that's on them. That's their karma. They need to fix that. It's their consequence. They will be punished for it, or something will happen because of that transgression. Believe that, or at least assume that. That's the idea. So even if they are being disrespectful to you, you don't do the same because you don't want to stoop down to the same level. You take the high road. You take the moral road. You take the road that's more compassionate. That's actually building somewhere for the future, advancing the case. So you are resolving conflict and disengagement deliberately through respect, showing respect, and demanding that they show respect as well. That's why it's mutual. It's not like you only do it to them and they don't get to do it. No, you show it to them because you want to demand the same thing to you. It's like I will show you respect because I want to demand respect from you as well. If you don't want to do that, then we can't have a meaningful discussion. We can't have an intellectual discussion if you're going to throw respect out of the window. I want to make sure that we both understand that respect is super important so that we can have a meaningful discussion. That's why it's important. Okay? While presenting thought-provoking logic with overwhelming evidence. So the idea here is that you have come up with a logic, and it's so awesome, that the readers listening to it are like, whoa, I never thought about it that way, but that makes perfect sense. That's so insightful, that's so crazy good. But you just didn't stop there. You actually flooded them with overwhelming evidence, just more than enough evidence to really support that case. And after you do that, you're doing the entire thing in a way that commands the attention of the floor. So the moment you speak, everybody in the floor is listening to you. They're hooked, they're engaged, they're just locked in. They're listening to every single word that you're saying, and they're just soaking it in. And that's what, for me, what shows, or at least what proves to be an ideal speaker, a really good debater. If you have all three, then for me, that's like golden. That's golden. Persuasion only occurs after acknowledging the differences in opinions and painstakingly seeking middle grounds. Painstakingly. You know it's painful to just get in there and clash again and again on these tough topics, but you do it anyways. You do it deliberately, on purpose, so that you try to get somewhere. And by doing that, you're showing respect. By doing that, you're saying, I'm dead serious about advancing this case in a respectful manner for this topic. You might want to run away, but I don't want to. I want to face this. I want to do something about it. I want to talk about it. Okay? All right. On absurdity. Philip, you want to read the first paragraph on absurdity?
Absurdity is
derived
from what you know. If an argument seems absurd, then the reason lies somewhere between. 1. The content. Oh, my eyes are terrible.
It's cool. Don't worry about it.
The content was factually absurd, or the reason absurd, or 2, you were unable to disenthral yourself from a particular perspective. Inversely, others can deem anyone that believes that this argument to be absurd must be themselves absurd.
Okay. So the point here that I wanted to make was that when you say something is absurd, wow, that's absurd. That's crazy talk. Then you are saying that's crazy talk based on what you know, based on what you believe, based on what you understand, right? So at the same level, there could be somebody on the other side of the camp who looks at you and says, anybody who thinks this is absurd must be themselves absurd. Does that make sense? It's really important to understand that whatever you think is absurd, equally there can be another person on the other side of the spectrum who thinks that you're absurd for thinking that's absurd. You have to absolutely take that in. Accept the fact that there can be somebody equally smart, equally reasonable, equally with evidence to argue against your case, against your argument, against your point. Just understand that, right? Yeah. So what you do absolutely want to keep is that even if you are arguing on a different place with different priorities, with different value systems, as long as you're arguing for the better. Why are we doing this? For the better. We're trying this so that we can get to a better place. And how do you know if you're getting to a better place? This is going to be the iffy spot. This is going to be the part of this entire program where some people are going to be like, I don't really agree with that, or I don't think so, or I can't agree with that assumption, or whatever that is. But for me, following your conscience, it's here and here. That's how I see it. But following your conscience is the key. If you follow your conscience, then it's okay. Whatever you say to each other, it's okay. It's okay. As long as you follow your conscience, like honestly. And how do you know if you're following your conscience? Remember the 6 items, the subcategories for respect. Those are the things I'm looking for. If you hit all of them and you think you're fair, you're being okay, then I think it's good. I think it's legit. And I think it's worthwhile talking about. I think it's worthwhile to understand from both sides why they said so, why they said such things. Okay? Now, what is conscience? It tells you from right or wrong. It's the higher self inside your body, inside your head, inside your heart, that tells you, hey, don't do this. You know you shouldn't do that. And this higher self tells you from right or wrong, but it also prioritizes mercy over justice. So you see somebody doing something wrong, and your reaction should be like, okay, we need to fix that. They need to be punished. But before you get there, they're gonna say, hey, is there a way for us to love them first? Somewhere be graceful and have mercy, and just do something to support this human being instead of punishing it or just getting rid of them, or whatever it is, or fighting, seeking justice, right? So your conscience is the self, the higher self that is more courageous than you, that's more loving than you, that is smarter than you, that is more understands, is more hardworking than you, that is more wiser than you, understands more than you, and that conscience is going to constantly tell you, hey, this is wrong, this is right. This is mercy, this is justice. And they're going to tell you what to do. And this is what Socrates said. Socrates said, hey, the reason why people think I'm smart is because I listen to my conscience. If my conscience tells me not to do something, I won't do it. So there is value in understanding this phrase, this concept of conscience. Now some people are going to say, it's not something that you can measure or you can find out for sure or you can quantify. You don't really know if you have it or not. It's just the feeling that you have, just like love. So you can't quantify it, it's not really scientifically proven. Get it, I get it, I understand, but I still think it's real, and it's there, and it's something that we need to take seriously. So, going back, on absurdity, you may think they're absurd, you may think they're crazy, but just understand that they may think the same way you do. So how do you resolve that? You say, I'm arguing for the better. I assume that you're doing it too. Let's find a meaningful solution together respectfully. And only then, if we follow our conscience, only then if we care for one another and try to show respect, only then can you get somewhere. First is come up with a claim, come up with a sentence. What do I believe? What do I believe to be true? The second part is reasoning and evidence, or it's otherwise called as warrant. The warrant. I have a warrant for your arrest. Means I have a bunch of evidence collected to prove why I need to arrest you. I have a warrant for your arrest means I have a bunch of evidence, a bunch of information to prove that you're guilty, or at least have a good reason to prove that you're guilty. And the second part, warrant or reasoning, is why I believe it. So I believe in something, why I believe it. The last part is making appeal. It's making an impact, showing to everybody, not just the other team, everybody listening to the debate, why should we all care? Why is it that it's not just something that you should be concerned about, but we should all be concerned about? This is the hardest part. The last part is the hardest part. Anybody come up with the first two. It's relatively easy to come up with the first two. The last part is the most difficult. And the last part is the part that you have to spend the most time on. Why? It's because you have to understand the opposition. You have to understand the needs of the audience and still get somewhere where they can resonate with that. So it's tough work. Tough work. Wasn't for you. Sorry. Okay, where was that? Okay, arguing. So I just explained to you that you can have a friend who's arguing with you, who genuinely is concerned about you, who genuinely is in for your best interest. And he or she may be arguing with you and giving you a hard time because they like you, because they care for you. Now, equally, you could have a friend who's nice, who's perfectly benign, but they can be passively aggressive. And they can just fight with you if they feel like whatever you say is something that they don't like or they don't agree with. Is that arguing or fighting? You have to identify, is this person arguing with me or is this person fighting with me? It's a very important tool to understand that. Because they might be fighting with you and you might think it's arguing, and then you're just arguing, keep on going, and then it's going worse. It's not happening. You may think they're fighting with you, but it turns out they're arguing with you. They're trying to help you out. So you have to understand what's going on. Understand what's happening right now. Is it fighting or is it arguing? Okay, keep that in mind. All right. Arguing, likewise, asks you to take a stance, a position based on an analysis of solid evidence and explain why. So you've read the material, you've read the evidence, you have all these information available to you, and you've come to a conclusion that you feel is confident. You can say outside, you can say out loud, I'm confident with this conclusion. I can say this out loud without feeling guilty, right? Yeah, so you have to take a stance if you want to argue. I agree or disagree. I'm on the pro side or on the con side. But I have to have a stance. This is what I believe in. This is what I think is right. This is my claim. That's why I'm supporting this position. Okay. Choose a direction of your research or preliminary analysis. Look for controversies. This is a really good tip. So if I give you the topic of 5G, I don't want you to just read through what's so great about 5G and then you're done. What's so bad about 5G and then you're done. You have to look at the controversies. What's happening? What's one person saying one thing? What's the other person saying another thing? And why is that the case? Why is there a controversy? And if you go deep into those controversies, then you see, okay, there's a really important issue that we need to address that both sides are having slightly different interpretations on. One side is saying this, the other side is saying something else. Why is that? Why is that? Why is there controversy? Then you have to figure out why. You have to understand why. But you can only do that if you identify the controversy from the get-go. And you can't do that unless you watch both sides. If you only look at one side, there's no way for you to identify the controversy. You have to find the controversy and deal with the controversy so you get something meaningful. Okay? Last point. At an early stage, formulate your tentative thesis statement. This is the one statement, your one assertion, your one claim, your one thing. What are you writing about? Why do you write about this? Why do you care about it in the first place? What's that thesis statement, that one-liner? Write it down. Formulate it. Come up with it at a very early stage and then build your story starting from that nucleus, starting from that core. And it has to be a good value system, something that you resonate with, something that you believe in, right?